Good evening. Welcome to Sound Health on Lagos Television. I am Ola Sumbo Molupe. We bring you Sound Health every Tuesday of the week, and we try to look at trending health issues around the world. Today, we are looking at healthy food options. According to the United Nations reports recently released by this organization, about 3 billion people worldwide cannot afford healthy foods, while only 1 in 10 persons eat the recommended fruits and vegetables. How do we change this narrative? This is our focus today on the program. Stay tuned. The conversation begins in a moment.
Every day, a lot of babies are dying in front of our eyes. We cannot make anything to them. Really, please stop this war. If you discharge him today, he will come tomorrow with cold injury or sepsis or pneumonia or severely dehydrated or even die already. Our baby right now need mechanical ventilation, and there is no enough mechanical ventilation. As you see, all the mechanical ventilators are fully occupied. More than 2 to 3 patients in each incubator. The situation here is more than catastrophe.
This is Al Emirati Maternity Hospital that caters for at least 83 deliveries a day, of which 15% of these deliveries are cesarean section. There is insufficient bed capacity for post-op care. Mothers are being discharged 6 hours post-operation to living conditions that do not meet the hygiene standards. That means lack of water, lack of sanitation facilities, lack of hygiene products for the mother and for the baby, and this exposes the newborn to a number of infections.
The mother cannot find even the food to support herself to feed her baby. The situation is more catastrophic. The situation is horrible, really.
To achieve healthy food options in Nigeria. Good evening, Uju Onuorah, and thanks for always finding time to join us on the program.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, I'm sure you've had access to the recently report released by the United Nations on food, the status of food hunger around the world and insecurity. So tell us, how did we get here? What does healthy food options mean to you?
In answer to the first question, I think we are two in one here, right? Food insecurity, which is what we are experiencing globally right now, right? There's a lot of factors. It's not like there's just one particular thing that is causing this food insecurity that the world is experiencing globally, right? And when you talk about this, you look at it from aspect of conflict, right? There's war in some nations. You talk about poverty, right? You talk about the fact that people, an average person, maybe an average, for example, here we are in Nigeria, cannot afford some basic meals, right? Basic foods, basic necessities. So you talk about poverty, you talk about food waste. It's quite interesting to know that regardless or despite better food, despite the fact that there is this amount of undernutrition, food insecurity globally, there's also a high proportion, significant proportion of food waste. People are still wasting food, right? So food insecurity is a myriad of factors. And how would I even forget to mention climate change? The fact that the climate is constantly changing, right? There is global warming. This also implicated in nutrition, in agriculture, in food. And then secondly, to answer the part of healthy food. Healthy food basically is just any range of food or any food particularly, right, that offers essential nutrients to the body. I'm emphasizing on what essential, because essential that the body needs it, right? So it's a healthy food. And it's also a healthy food. A healthy food is a food that will promote, health. Yeah, it has to, because it's giving you nutrients, right? It's giving an individual nutrients. So technically, it's going to promote health.
Look at healthy food options um,
Okay.
in depth wise now. You mentioned something that, despite the fact that we are experiencing food shortage in the world, we are still also experiencing food wastage. Isn't that ironical? According to this report, it says 1 billion meals are wasted across the world each day, while nearly 800 million people go hungry.
It's quite a sad reality, but the conversation around food waste is something that goes beyond even what the government can do. It's all about also when it comes to food waste, it's an individual thing, right? It's a household thing. How is my I how how I am my household, how are we able to manage the food that we have, prevent food wastage and food loss? It's the government can help in certain other areas when it comes to food, agriculture, other nutrition, and generally a lot of things within that sphere. But food waste particularly starts from the grassroots. The food that that is accessible to you, the food that you have gotten, how can you prevent food waste? And there are many various ways. And on the basic level, is just trying to make sure that whatever you are cooking as an individual or in your household, it's something that you know that you and your household can finish per time, right? Then bigger conversations brought around, having, proper storage facilities, right? To also make sure that food is properly stored and avoiding spoilage, which in turn obviously can lead to, wastage.
So is there a link between affordability of food, nutritious food, and healthy outcomes?
Yes, a very, 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 very huge important link. Affordability means that I can buy a food in simple terms. I can purchase food. And if that is the case, that means that that food is accessible also to me. If I can buy a food, that means I can get it, right? And then if I can get it, there's a huge, possibility that I would eat it. Now, looking at it from a very, basic level, an average Nigerian food is not affordable. And now, what would happen here is that if they cannot afford healthy foods, they're going to go for unhealthier food options, which is, if we're being very honest, cheaper, at least compared to a healthy food. Vegetables, fruits, they're expensive. And these are healthy food options. Your carbohydrate sources, your proteins, meat is expensive. And so indirectly, or rather directly, if people cannot afford healthy food, they go for unhealthy food. And then consequently, it increases their risk to a myriad, a plethora of diseases. Nutritional deficiencies, chronic diseases. You talk about diabetes, you talk about hypertension, you talk about cancer, you talk about all of these diseases. So yes, there's a direct link. Affordability, if people can afford food, healthy food, then there's a chance that, they can have a healthier, outcome, life, and, increase their life potential.
Okay, so Uju, thanks for that explanation. Now, let us take it further. To a layman, how do you tell a food is healthy? How do you tell a food, yes, let's take it from that angle. How do you tell a food is healthy? Is it about just buying um, according to your buying power?
Well, first thing I would say, if I properly answer your question, is that there is no one healthy food. I like to always emphasize this because people often think that, oh, there is this one food that you would eat, it would give you all the benefits. No. While every food is, individualistic in the sense that if a food, for example, you could have as little as ginger, which will be high in certain kinds of what we call antioxidants. Then you have your potatoes, for example, they are higher in carbohydrates, right? So it doesn't mean that, oh, maybe ginger is healthier than yam and potato. So there is no one single healthy food. Now, that being said, a healthy food, like I earlier mentioned, is just that a food that has, that offers certain essential nutrients, right? You talk about carbohydrates, you talk about proteins, you talk about minerals, you talk about vitamins. So that, looking at it from that angle, then what you then ask is, what are the foods that have, some of these nutrients? So our elementary, studies will tell you balanced diet, to tell you the 6 classes of food, and that still stands till today, right? We talk about, your carbohydrate sources, where you talk about your potatoes, your yam, your rice, and you talk about your proteins, where you talk about your fish, meat, eggs, beans, lentils, peas. You talk about, your fruits and vegetables, which are primarily sources of, minerals and vitamins, right? Your water. So this is, in a nutshell, healthy food. Elementary, knowledge still stands when it comes to, that conception of what healthy food is.
Okay, there is also the case of eating hunger. People go to, they would rather subscribe to fast food. Yes, fast food, let's put it that way. That results into eating hunger. How do we change this narrative?
Eating of hunger, as people, it's commonly called also micronutrient deficiency, right? And it's not something that people can, as the word implies, is hidden. It's a deficiency of nutrients that is hidden. Now, one of the things that causes this is that people, more oftentimes than not, people are not eating enough fruits and vegetables. I mentioned in the last question, answer to the last question that you shared, that fruits and vegetables, are primary sources of, your vitamins and minerals. Your potatoes won't give you vitamins. Your yam won't give you vitamins. And again, this is not to say that these foods are bad. No, they also have, their functions, being that, for example, these are primary sources of energy. But if people are not eating an adequate source of vegetables and fruits, they're going to be, micronutrient deficient. They're going to lack certain kinds of nutrients. Again, I'm not negating the fact that you have to eat your protein sources, you have to eat your fat, healthy fats, right? They're healthy fat sources, like your avocados, your nuts, your seed, right? And then you talk about the carbohydrates. You have to eat them. But in addition, it's important to take fruits and vegetables, because that is only when you can get these vitamins and minerals, which, guess what, is also implicated in how our body takes in the other major classes of food. That is your carbohydrates, your proteins, and then your fats. If people can get at least 5/7, what we call 5/7, it's really a very big conversation on its own, but 5/7 of fruits and vegetables in a day, the risks, right, or the burden or the prevalence, better put, of micronutrient deficiency, hidden hunger, would greatly reduce.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we balance eating right, especially during this era we're experiencing rise in costs of food prices and other food produce?
Honestly, I'm going to be sincere and say that the easiest way to do this is to make sure that you're earning well. You have to, really, because while there are strategies that could help, manage it, the fact remains that if as an individual or as a household, the earning power is not enough to meet the demands of the food purchase, there's no way around it. That's a very plain truth. But in addition to this, also there are things that we can still do regardless. One of them being, for example, avoiding food waste. I keep emphasizing this again because people are complaining that they are not eating enough, but yet they are wasting food. So avoid food waste. Find strategies to, if there are remnants of food in the household, find ways to probably cook it into something else. Avoid food waste. Secondly, buy foods that are in season. While of course, again, I know that things are generally, there's high inflation rate right now, but at least most times foods that are in season are relatively less cheaper than when they are out of season. So buy foods in season. Number 3, plan budget. Again, it's important. Check your income. What can you buy within that means? Plan budget. Buy foods that. Then also, lastly, but even more importantly, that emphasis on nutrient dense food. some people have the money, if I would use the word, to buy healthy food, but they will still decide to buy unhealthy foods. They'll still decide to go for fast food. They'll still decide to go for, snacks, junk. And sometimes it's not even a case of that they can't afford it, no. But it's not even a case of they're just, more like food preference. So while buying foods, please, as much as possible, let's emphasize on the nutrient-dense food, which again, like I mentioned earlier, you have your fruits, your vegetables, your other sources of food, your balanced diet or your 6 classes of food, as we call it: carbohydrate, proteins, healthy fats. Yeah.
Uju Onuorah, registered dietitian and nutritionist. Thank you so much for your expertise on how to achieve healthy food options despite the rising food prices.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right. Avoid food waste. Buy food in season. Stick with your budget and avoid junks. You can achieve healthy food options. Sound Health continues with trending health report from around the world. Please stay tuned. This is why we say thank you on today's episode of Sound Health. You agree with me that it has been actually educating. Ensure you avoid food waste. Ensure you stick with your budget and buy food in season. You're saving yourself a lot of money. For comments and inquiries, or you have topics you'd like us to treat, please follow us on social media at Lagos Television. A sound health is a sound mind. Make healthy living your choice.